All right, so today we're going on a knowledge treasure hunt.
Oh, knowledge treasure hunt.
Yeah, through all the benefits of reading newspapers.
Okay.
You know, in today's digital age, it might seem like newspapers are relics of the past.
Right.
But trust me, there are some unexpected benefits you might not have considered.
Interesting.
Whether you're cramming for an exam, or trying to stay ahead of the curve at work, or just a curious mind like me, you're going to want to hear this.
I think what's really fascinating about this deep dive is that it challenges our assumptions
Okay.
about what's considered old versus outdated.
Right.
You know, newspapers with their in-depth reporting and diverse perspectives
Yeah.
can actually give you a mental edge that scrolling through a screen just can't replicate.
I like that.
We're going to uncover how they can make you a more informed, insightful, and engaged individual.
Okay, so to kick things off, let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Staying updated with current events.
Right.
It seems like everyone gets their news online these days. But can scrolling through headlines really compare to the depth and breadth you find in a newspaper?
That's a great question, and the answer might surprise you.
Okay.
Think about how you typically consume news online.
Okay.
It's often fragmented, tailored by algorithms,
Right.
designed to keep you clicking.
Yeah.
Newspapers, on the other hand, offer a curated selection of the most important news, carefully researched and presented by experienced journalists.
Yeah.
They encourage you to slow down, think critically, and connect the dots between different events.
You know, that reminds me of something I've been struggling with lately.
Oh, yeah.
I find myself getting lost in the constant stream of information online.
Right.
Feeling overwhelmed and unsure what to believe. I wonder if newspapers could help me cut through the noise and develop a more discerning eye.
Absolutely.
What's truly important.
That's a very astute observation.
Thanks.
And it highlights another powerful benefit of reading newspapers,
Okay.
developing your critical thinking skills. Imagine you're reading an opinion piece that presents a controversial viewpoint.
Right.
Instead of passively accepting it, you're prompted to question the author's assumptions,
Right.
weigh the evidence presented, and formulate your own informed opinion.
Okay.
This is an essential skill in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with information and opinions from all sides.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It's like instead of just absorbing information, you're actively engaging with it, challenging it, and forming your own conclusions.
Yes.
I could definitely see how that would be helpful, not just for understanding the news,
Right.
but for making decisions in all areas of my life, from my career to my personal relationships.
Precisely.
Wow.
And this brings us to another benefit that might surprise you.
Okay.
Newspapers can actually help you become a better writer.
What?
Yeah. Think about the variety of writing styles you encounter in a newspaper.
Okay.
Concise news reports, in-depth feature articles, persuasive opinion pieces, witty columns. It's a masterclass in effective writing all in one place.
That's so true. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But it's like having a backstage pass to the world of professional writing.
Absolutely.
Just by reading these different types of articles, I'm exposed to a wide range of techniques and styles, from crafting compelling arguments to using vivid language to capture the reader's attention.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that you can apply these lessons to your own writing.
Okay.
Whether you're crafting emails, writing reports for work, or even working on that novel you've always dreamed of writing.
Right.
The skills you develop from reading newspapers can elevate your communication in all aspects of your life.
Speaking of expressing ourselves clearly,
Yes.
that reminds me of how newspapers can actually help us expand our vocabulary.
Absolutely.
They're filled with rich descriptive language and industry-specific terms that you might not encounter elsewhere.
Absolutely. Have you ever stumbled upon a word in a newspaper article that you had to look up?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
That's a small victory in itself.
I know.
Imagine the cumulative effect of learning even one new word a day from the newspaper.
Wow, yeah, you're right. I never really considered that.
Yeah.
But it makes sense over time. That could really add up.
It's not just about sounding more intelligent, though.
Yeah.
It's about developing a deeper understanding of language and its nuances. This can be especially helpful if, for example, you're working on that big presentation at work.
Right.
And want to make sure you're communicating your ideas with clarity and precision.
This is already making me rethink my relationship with newspapers.
Good.
But before we get too carried away, I want to touch on something that might seem a bit counterintuitive in our digital age.
Okay.
The tangible experience of reading a physical newspaper.
Ah, yes. There's something incredibly satisfying about holding a newspaper in your hands.
I agree.
Flipping through the pages and discovering stories that catch your eye. It's a different kind of reading experience, one that encourages focus and mindfulness.
I completely agree. There's something about the ritual of unfolding the paper. The smell of the ink,
Yes.
the feel of the paper between your fingers. It creates a sense of calm and connection that's hard to find in the digital world.
Exactly. In a world dominated by screens and constant notifications, newspapers offer a welcome respite from the digital overload.
Right.
They invite you to slow down, disconnect from the virtual world, and engage with information in a more thoughtful and deliberate way.
Yeah.
It's a form of self-care, really.
That's such a great point. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense. It's like taking a break from the constant stimulation of the online world and allowing yourself to simply be present with the words on the page.
And that brings us to another benefit that's often overlooked.
Okay.
Newspapers can help you feel more connected to your community.
Right.
They highlight local events, businesses, and initiatives that you might miss if you're only relying on national news sources or social media.
I can definitely see that. Just the other day, I was flipping through my local newspaper and stumbled upon an article about a new farmers market opening up in my neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
I would have never known about it otherwise.
Exactly. It's about discovering those hidden gems right in your own backyard.
Yeah.
Those little pockets of community life that make a place feel like home.
This is also fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground already.
I know, right?
From staying informed and expanding our vocabularies to sharpening our critical thinking skills and even finding a sense of calm and community connection. All through reading newspapers, I'm starting to see them in a whole new light.
And we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
Oh, no.
There's so much more to explore.
Okay.
From how newspapers can boost your general knowledge to how they can spark conversations and foster connections. Stay tuned, because we're just getting started.
All right, I'm excited.
You know, it's funny you mentioned those hidden gems in our own backyards.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another benefit of reading newspapers that we often overlook. The way they can boost our general knowledge in a way that online sources just don't.
Oh, tell me more about that. I'm always up for expanding my knowledge base, but I tend to gravitate towards books or documentaries.
Right.
How do newspapers fit into that picture?
Think about it this way. Newspapers are like a daily dose of trivia, history, science, culture, all rolled into one.
Okay.
One day, you might be reading about a new archaeological discovery that rewrites our understanding of ancient civilizations.
Wow.
The next, you're learning about a breakthrough in renewable energy technology. It's a constant stream of fascinating information that broadens your horizons and makes you a more well-rounded individual.
I see what you mean. It's like a passive learning experience where you're absorbing all sorts of interesting tidbits without even realizing it.
Yes.
And I bet those tidbits can come in handy in unexpected ways.
Exactly. Imagine you're at a dinner party.
Okay.
And the conversation turns to a topic you recently read about in the newspaper. Suddenly, you're able to contribute to the discussion, share your insights, and maybe even impress your fellow diners with your knowledge. It's about feeling confident and engaged in a wide range of topics.
That's a great point. There's nothing quite like that feeling of being able to hold your own in a conversation and maybe even teach others something new. Speaking of learning and teaching, I'm curious to hear more about how newspapers can foster a habit of lifelong learning.
This is perhaps the most enduring benefit of all.
Okay.
Newspapers, by their very nature, encourage a habit of daily learning and intellectual curiosity.
Right.
They present you with new information, challenge your assumptions, and inspire you to explore different perspectives. It's a continuous process of growth and discovery that can last a lifetime.
I can see how that would be particularly valuable in today's rapidly changing world where we need to constantly adapt and learn new things to stay ahead of the curve. It's like having a personal tutor delivering insights and knowledge right to your doorstep every day.
That's a great analogy, and the best part is that it's never too late to start. Whether you're a seasoned newspaper reader or just starting out, you can reap the benefits of this lifelong learning habit. And the beauty of it is that this habit extends far beyond the pages of the newspaper once you cultivate that thirst for knowledge and intellectual stimulation.
Yeah.
It permeates all areas of your life.
So it's not just about staying informed about current events.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity and a willingness to engage with the world around us. That's a powerful takeaway.
It is indeed. And speaking of engaging with the world around us, let's not forget how newspapers can actually help us build stronger connections within our communities.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
There's something about sharing an interesting article or a thought-provoking opinion piece with someone that can spark a conversation and create a sense of shared connection.
Exactly. Newspapers provide a common ground, a shared source of information and perspectives that can ignite discussions and debates and even friendly disagreements. It's a way to connect with people on a deeper level, understand different viewpoints, and broaden your own understanding of the world.
And sometimes it's just about sharing a quirky or heartwarming story you stumbled upon in the newspaper. It's a great way to brighten someone's day or simply connect over a shared moment of amusement or wonder.
Those shared moments are so important, especially in a world where we can feel increasingly isolated despite being hyper-connected online.
Right.
Newspapers can help bridge that gap by reminding us of our shared humanity and the things that connect us as human beings.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much ground, from the practical benefits of staying informed to the more subtle ways newspapers can enrich our lives and shape our perspectives. It's clear that they offer a depth and breadth of experience that's hard to find elsewhere.
I couldn't agree more. And remember, we've only scratched the surface.
Okay.
There's a whole world of knowledge, insights, and perspectives waiting to be discovered within the pages of a newspaper.
Before we move on to our final thoughts, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the reliability of information in today's digital landscape. We live in a world where misinformation and fake news run rampant.
Right.
So how can we be sure we're getting accurate and trustworthy information?
That's a crucial question, and one that highlights a key advantage of newspapers, their commitment to journalistic ethics and standards. Unlike the Wild West of the internet where anyone can publish anything.
Right.
Newspapers have a long-standing tradition of fact-checking, verifying sources, and striving for objectivity in their reporting.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the difference between getting medical advice from a qualified doctor versus relying on a random online forum.
Exactly.
Like you want to go to a source you can trust.
Exactly. And that trust is earned through years of upholding journalistic standards and a commitment to accuracy and fairness. When you read a newspaper article, you're benefiting from the expertise of trained journalists who have dedicated their careers to gathering, verifying, and presenting information responsibly. It's a level of credibility that's hard to find in the often chaotic world of online content.
This conversation has really opened my eyes to the value of newspapers in a way I never expected.
I'm glad to hear that. And believe it or not, we still have more ground to cover. We've talked about the big picture benefits, but now I want to zoom in on some specific examples of how these benefits can play out in your everyday life. Are you ready to dive even deeper?
Yeah, I'm ready to dive deeper.
All right, so let's start with something we touched on earlier, vocabulary.
Okay.
You mentioned wanting to give a big presentation at work.
Right.
Well, imagine you're reading the business section of the newspaper and come across the term liquidity ratio.
Okay.
It's a term you might not encounter in everyday conversation, but understanding it could be crucial for your presentation.
That's a great example. I can see how learning industry-specific terms like that could not only make me sound more knowledgeable, but also help me grasp the finer points of complex topics.
Exactly. And it's not just about business jargon. Let's say you're interested in politics.
Okay.
Reading the newspaper can expose you to terms like filibuster or gerrymandering.
Right.
Understanding these terms allows you to engage in more informed discussions and even analyze political strategies more effectively.
That's so true. I often feel like I'm missing out on those nuanced conversations because I don't have the vocabulary to fully participate. It's like everyone else is speaking a different language.
And speaking of languages, reading newspapers can even help you improve your writing skills in your native language.
Oh, interesting.
Think about the way journalists structure their articles. They often use clear, concise language, strong verbs, and vivid imagery to paint a picture in the reader's mind. You can learn a lot just by paying attention to their sentence structure, word choice, and overall flow.
It's like they're giving us a free writing lesson with every article.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes so much sense. By absorbing those techniques through reading, I can hopefully start incorporating them into my own writing.
Exactly. And remember those opinion pieces we talked about.
Yeah.
They're not just about expressing opinions. They're often master classes in constructing logical arguments, presenting evidence, and anticipating counterarguments. These are valuable skills that can be applied to everything from writing persuasive emails to crafting compelling presentations.
This is all starting to click for me. I'm
Yeah.
beginning to see how reading newspapers can be like a mental workout, sharpening my critical thinking skills, expanding my vocabulary, and even improving my writing. But what about the more social and personal benefits we discussed? How do those play out in real life?
Well, think about those local events you mentioned. Discovering in your newspaper, attending a farmer's market, or a community theater production can introduce you to new people, expose you to different perspectives, and make you feel more connected to your community.
That's so true. It's easy to get caught up in our own little bubbles, especially in today's digital world. Reading the newspaper can remind us that there's a whole world happening right outside our doors, just waiting to be explored.
And remember that feeling of calm and connection we talked about.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself settling into a comfy chair with a cup of coffee and the Sunday edition of your favorite newspaper.
Okay.
It's a ritual that can help you de-stress, unwind, and reconnect with yourself.
That sounds absolutely delightful in a world that's constantly demanding our attention. It's so important to carve out those moments of peace and quiet.
It is indeed, and who knows, you might even stumble upon a quirky story or an interesting fact that you can share with friends or family later.
Right.
It's those little sparks of conversation that can brighten someone's day and strengthen our bonds with those around us.
This entire deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me.
Good.
I went from thinking newspapers were outdated to realizing they offer a surprisingly rich and diverse set of benefits that are incredibly relevant in today's world.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and I hope it inspires you to pick up a newspaper and embark on your own journey of discovery.
I definitely will.
You might be surprised at what you find.
And to our listeners, I encourage you to do the same. Explore the world of newspapers with an open mind and see what treasures you uncover.
Great idea.
You might just find that they offer a unique and valuable perspective on the world that you won't find anywhere else. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.